So we have all spent a lot of time at home in the last few months. Uh, these are strange times. These are emotional times. What in that period have you guys learned about yourselves?
Well, there are two things for me. One is that I've discovered that I'm much better at jigsaw puzzles than I knew I was. You can laugh, but I'm actually having them framed because they're jigsaw puzzles that are actually works of art. But the other thing is, I used to think of cocktail hour as being a point somewhere between 5:30 and 8 o'clock, you know. Now it's 5:45. Now, go. And so,
Tobias, have you learned anything about yourself in this period of time?
I think I've learned a bit that I'm a workaholic. I've really missed work. I think I realized that's what makes me tick a bit, and so my mind has spun a bit. But maybe that's a good thing. I'm sure it is a good thing to be forced to stop a bit.
In signing on for The Crown, which already had these two sort of beloved seasons, you have the challenge of both taking on a real powerful figure who people know, who people have watched. Has there been any feedback or advice going in from that? Maybe
What,
even
from the real
royal
people?
family? Yeah.
Oh, no. The Crown never comments. I'm afraid. No. I mean, I would love it if he watched it, but I don't know. I don't think he does. Sadly, I think probably he watches sort of documentaries. I think he'd probably have no time for like fiction. He'd be like, that's nonsense. So yeah, I don't know. No, they've never said.
Patrick, you've been vocal, over the years about how challenging it was to sort of get people to see past you as Picard.
there was a film being made, and there was a supporting role that I was really eager to have a go at, and I couldn't get to meet the director, but finally I did, and he was lovely and very friendly and very warm. But he said finally, with a smile on his face, "Patrick, why would I want Jean-Luc Picard in my movie?" And that had a bad impact on me for a long time afterwards. I thought, oh my Lord, is this it? I have to accept all these other offers.
I have to take this opportunity to tell you, Patrick, that your voice work on American Dad is so great.
He's almost as big an arsehole as you are.
Me or okay, me. Yeah, thanks.
Kieran, you are now stuck with, and I mean this as the greatest possible compliment,
Oh boy.
the creepiest character that I've ever seen on television. I mean, I'm not always sure I can stay in the room when you walk onto the set.
That's a big compliment,
Wow.
man.
Oh,
is a big
believe
compliment.
me, yeah, it's true, but you
That-
are weird.
I actually think when I read the pilot too, I just the pilot was sent to me to read for another character, was to read for cousin Greg, and I immediately knew that I just wasn't this guy. But I read on, and Roman walks in the room, and his first line is, hey, motherfuckers, and he just starts just jabbing everybody. I'm like, oh, this guy looks like fun. By the time I got to the end of that pilot and I saw the thing he does where he offers a small child $1 million if he can hit a home run,
Mm-hmm.
and the kid almost does it, and then he rips up the check in front of him, there were people on set that said they were really uncomfortable. I was like, are you kidding? That was hilarious. That was fun. Everyone that yells that I'm an asshole thinks they're the first one to say that. So, yeah. I'm wearing a mask. I got this like mask on. I'm carrying my baby, and it's like, oh, you're on that show. You're a real asshole. I'm like, baby, leave me alone.
Which brings us to Watchmen. In what ways did you hope it would be impactful when you were making it? And in what ways has it become that much more so in this moment in time?
I'll tell you, Watchmen was as good on the page as it ended up being on the screen. The thing about Watchmen is that it's relevant for the past, if you watch it any time in the past 60 years and even go back for then it's going to be relevant in whatever time period you watch it. It's not really right on time. It's actually 60 to 70 years late. You know what I mean? For me, the biggest impact from Watchmen was after the show came out, and then I got to be a part of the online conversations and to see how people were affected by the content of the show, and they were emboldened because Watchmen didn't really shy away. Watchmen said, "Hey, we're calling the problem as it is. We're offering not necessarily a solution, but we are saying that racism in these institutions needs to be eradicated, and that there's a way to do that while also telling an exciting story. There's a way to do that while also telling a hero's journey, a love story, a story about action. And sometimes it was comedic, and sometimes it was sad, and it was very, very accessible to anyone who was willing to sit down and allow that narrative to penetrate. So I was really, really excited. There were so many different lessons and blessings that I came across from playing Cal and Dr. Manhattan and the different iterations, the 3 or 4 different iterations of the Dr. Manhattan character as well.
It also meant that you had to be naked a lot.
It did mean that. It did mean that I had to be naked.
I'm curious, were there any hesitations? What were those sort of conversations like? And I've heard you say it was liberating, and I'm hoping you can sort of elaborate on how so, why.
One, I had to get in shape. Like I had to get in real physical, like real shape. I think it would have really been a shame if Dr. Manhattan would have showed up and he didn't have the body, and he just
Bobby,
couldn't.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
he was just. I think that would have just
Yep.
really been a disappointment. And I said, look, I'm on HBO. Everybody's gonna see it, and it's gonna live. It's gonna live like after me. You know what I mean? It's gonna continue to go. So I wanted to show up for that.
With good reason. David, Snowpiercer is also a meditation, in this case more on sort of class warfare. But like Watchmen, it's also wrapped up in a really entertaining genre show. So I'm going to ask the same question that I asked to Yahya, which is, do you think it has a different resonance in this moment?
What's in the show is in the show and has been true for a very long time. We all of us are participating in a class system that we were born into, and that economically our world was created this way, and we have ended up on this train, and our jobs every day sort of involve us interacting with it. But there are elements of class divide that have felt like they come to the forefront for people when watching the show now.
Resource scarcity.
Resource scarcity for sure. Yeah, and particularly how class interacts with resource scarcity. So that seems to come to the forefront because we're being confronted with what would have felt like an allegory if our real life were a sci-fi show, but it's just our real life, right? How intentional is resource scarcity, and who does it serve, and what system is it holding up? And those are the same questions that we ask ourselves in the political moment that we're in which we start to ask ourselves, what system is being supported by a police force that justifies brutalizing of Black bodies, right? All of these same systems are coming into question a lot, and a big part of what Snowpiercer is doing is questioning systems. And I suppose when we go back and watch it a bunch of years from now, it'll bring different things to the forefront. So I think all of that stuff is baked into the show. And I think the lens is always a product of the time at which we witness any piece of art.
Bob, you have obviously now spent a lot of years traveling back and forth in time with Saul. What have you learned about yourself from him, and what pieces of him have become you? Hopefully you have not become him, but how has he changed you?
It's funny. What the hardest thing that to play is the immaturity of the character. It's weird, but you start to become a champion of your character, no matter who they are. And you want to, in a weird way, it's like you want them to make the best, healthiest choice. That doesn't work out with Saul. The idea of calling Peter and Vince, and I've done this. It's kind of embarrassing, and saying, can he just be a good guy, or can he make a better choice? I mean, you start to like the guy, and you want him to learn the right lessons from his experience, but that's not the story that they're telling. For me, playing the character has been a chance to think about my own short-sightedness in life, and immaturity and impetuousness that is really a big part of who that character is. I don't think that's as big a part of me, but it's been something to try to revisit those feelings inside me and see where they still are a part of me, and try to vanquish them.
And Bob, have you learned anything about yourself in this period of time?
Before I started acting a lot, I spent my whole life writing and trying to get shows to happen and writing movies and stuff. So I was planning to do that in somewhere in here anyways. So now this has given me this chance to take on all these ideas that have been backed up in my head, and I'm realizing how hard that is again, which is cool. I thought it would be that, and it is really, really hard. But the best thing is it's been to spend time with my kids who are college age and otherwise would not be around at all. We watch a movie every night, and it's just been great to be. I think I'm super proud of those kids and who they are, and I think Kieran, I got to spend a lot of time with my kids when they were little, not because of quarantine, but because I was a writer and I sort of made my own schedule. And every minute you spend with them now pays off later. They become great people.